Welcome to Bible Time with me. I'm still in Genesis, but thank you for joining me on this journey. The whole objective here is to get through the Bible before I die, and I have limited time. And my Bible kitty, Violet, is here. She comes out and has to sit on my lap anytime I pull up the Bible. It's like she knows it. She knows this, and she loves the Bible, and I can't explain it. I can't. If you saw this, you would think it's the craziest thing in the world. That this cat will sit out on her own. She'll sleep all day, anywhere. I take out the Bible and just sit in this chair, and she has to be on my lap. And this is what I call my Jesus chair, by the way. And yeah, that's when she has to sit here because she knows I'm going to pull out the Bible. This is the chair I read my Bible in. And, and she has to be here. And I always read it out loud to her, and she loves it. And if anyone can explain it, let me know. But I truly think she was heaven sent to me because of that. And she's passing away too. We'll probably both die together. At the rate we're going, we'll probably both die on the same day. Won't that be amazing? My actual ultimate partner was a cat. Go figure. Go figure. The only way I could be loved was by a cat. Oh, I don't know. I'm not going there. Anyway, Genesis we're going to do chapter 40 and 41 today. It's the English Standard Version. I say it every time, and I still have to check. Sometimes I'm just an idiot. But we've left off, we're in Joseph's story here. And Joseph was a servant to one of the Pharaoh's households, I believe. And now, because this guy's wife cried rape, she wanted Joseph to have sex with her, he wouldn't. So out of revenge, she cried rape. And now Joseph's in the prison, but he's always being blessed by God throughout all this, after his brothers sold him into slavery and all this stuff. Poor kid, all he did was have a dream. He had a couple dreams he told his family about. Next thing you know, this is his life. Be careful what you tell people. But anyway, so he's in charge of the prison now because, they gave him rights to that. Everything he touches turns to gold, but it's not really. So they just know that he's kind of blessed, and they give him these advantages. All right, so chapter 40. Joseph interprets two prisoners' dreams. Sometime after this, the cupbearer of the king of Egypt and his baker committed an offense against their lord, the king of Egypt. And Pharaoh was angry with the two officers, the chief cupbearer and the chief baker. And he put them in custody in the house of the captain of the guard, in prison where Joseph was confined. The captain of the guard appointed Joseph to be with them, and he attended them. They continued for some time in custody. And one night they both dreamed, the cupbearer and the baker of the king of Egypt, who were confined in the prison, each his own dream, and each dream with its own interpretation. When Joseph came to them in the morning, he saw that they were troubled. So he asked the Pharaoh's officers, who were with him in custody in his master's house, "Why are your faces downcast today?" They said to him, "We have had dreams, and there is no one to interpret." Turn the page. It's a page turner. And to interpret them. And Joseph said to them, "Do not interpretations belong to God? Please tell them to me." So the chief cupbearer told his dream to Joseph and said to him, "In my dream there was a vine before me, and on the vine there were 3 branches. As soon as it budded, its blossoms shot forth, and the clusters ripened into grapes. Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand." Then Joseph said to him, "This is its interpretation. The 3 branches are 3 days. In 3 days, Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your office, and you shall place Pharaoh's cup in his hand as formerly, when you were his cupbearer. Only remember me when it is well with you, and please do me the kindness to mention me to Pharaoh, and so get me out of this house. For I was indeed stolen out of the land of the Hebrews, and here also I have done nothing that they should put me into this pit." When the chief baker saw that the interpretation was favorable, he said to Joseph, I also had a dream. There were 3 cake baskets on my head, and in the uppermost basket there were all sorts of baked food for Pharaoh. But the birds were eating it out of the basket on my head. And Joseph answered and said, this is its interpretation. 3 baskets are 3 days. In 3 days, Pharaoh will lift up your head from you and hang you on a tree, and the birds will eat the flesh from you. If I was that guy, I'd go, I'll just stay in jail. Thanks, Pharaoh, but no thanks. I really don't want to bake for you anymore. Just stay here in jail, please. We'll see if Joseph's right. On the 3rd day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, he made a feast for all his servants and lifted up the head of the chief cupbearer and the head of chief baker among his servants. He restored the chief cupbearer to his position, and he placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand. But he hanged the chief baker, as Joseph had interpreted to them. Yet the chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph, but forgot him. Chapter 41. After 2 whole years, Pharaoh dreamed that he was standing by the Nile, and behold, there came up out of the Nile 7 cows, attractive and plump, and they fed in the reed grass. And behold, 7 other cows, ugly and thin, came up out of the Nile after them, and stood by the other cows on the bank of the Nile. And the ugly, thin cows ate up the 7 attractive, plump cows. And Pharaoh awoke, and he fell asleep and dreamed a second time. And behold, 7 ears of grain, plump and good, were growing on one stalk. And behold, after them sprouted 7 ears, thin and blighted by the east wind. And the thin ears swallowed up the 7 plump, full ears. And Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream. So in the morning his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt and all its wise men. Pharaoh told them his dreams, but there was none who could interpret them to Pharaoh. Then the chief cupbearer said to Pharaoh, I remember my offenses today. When Pharaoh was angry with his servants and put me and the chief baker in custody in the house of the captain of the guard, we dreamed on the same night, he and I, each having a dream with its own interpretation. A young Hebrew was there with us, a servant of the captain of the guard. When we told him, he interpreted our dreams to us, giving an interpretation to each man according to his dream. And as he interpreted to us, so it came about. I was restored to my office, and the baker was hanged. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they quickly brought him out of the pit. And when he had shaved himself and changed his clothes, he came in before Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I have had a dream, and there is no one who can interpret it. I have heard it said of you that when you hear a dream, you can interpret it. Joseph answered Pharaoh, it is not in me. God will give Pharaoh a favorable answer. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, behold, in my dream I was standing on the banks of the Nile. 7 cows, plump and attractive, came up out of the Nile and fed in the reed grass. 7 other cows came up after them, poor and very ugly and thin, such as I had never seen in all the land of Egypt. And the thin, ugly cows ate up the first 7 plump cows. But when they had eaten them, no one would have known that they had eaten them, for they were still as ugly as at the beginning. Then I awoke. I also saw in my dream 7 ears growing on one stalk, full and good. 7 ears withered, thin and blighted by the east wind, sprouted after them. And then the thin ears swallowed up the 7 good ears. And I told it to the magicians. There was no one who could explain it to me. Then Joseph said to Pharaoh, the dreams of Pharaoh are one. God has revealed to Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows are 7 good years. And the 7 good ears are 7 years. The dreams are one. The 7 lean and ugly cows that came up after them are 7 years, and the empty years blighted by the east wind are also 7 years of famine. It is as I told Pharaoh. God has shown to Pharaoh what he is about to do. There will come 7 years of great plenty throughout all of the land of Egypt. But after them, there will arise 7 years of famine, and all the plenty will be forgotten in the land of Egypt. The famine will consume the land, and the plenty will be unknown in the land by reason of the famine that will follow, for it will be very severe. And the doubling of Pharaoh's dream means that the thing is fixed by God, and God will shortly bring it about. Now therefore, let Pharaoh select a discerning and wise man, and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh proceed to appoint overseers, to over the land, and take 1/5 of the produce of the land of Egypt during the 7 plentiful years. And let them gather all the food of these good years that are coming, and store up grain under the authority of Pharaoh for food in the cities, and let them keep it. That food shall be a reserve for the land against the 7 years of famine that are to occur in the land of Egypt, so that the land may not perish throughout the famine. Joseph's pretty smart, if you ask me. This proposal pleased Pharaoh and all his servants. And Pharaoh said to his servants, "Can we find a man like this, in whom is the Spirit of God?" Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Since God has shown you all this, there is none so discerning and wise as you are. You shall be over my house, and all my people shall order themselves as at your command. Only as regards the throne will I be greater than you." And Pharaoh said to Joseph, "See, I have set you over all the land of Egypt." Then Pharaoh took his signet ring from his hand and put it on Joseph's hand, and clothed him in garments of fine linen, and put a gold chain around his neck. And he made him ride in his second chariot, and they called out before him, "Bow the knee." Thus he set him over all the land of Egypt. Moreover, Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I am Pharaoh, and without your consent no one shall lift up hand or foot in the land of Egypt." And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zaphenath-Paneah, and he gave him in marriage Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, priest of On. So Joseph went out over the land of Egypt. And forgive me, I don't know if I said the disclaimer, names, places. I'm going to butcher them. I don't know them. Just forgive me. The journey is getting through it. Joseph was 30 years old when he entered the service of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh and went through all the land of Egypt. During the 7 plentiful years, the earth produced abundantly, and he gathered up all the food of these 7 years, which occurred in the land of Egypt, and put the food in the cities. He put in every city the food from the fields around it. And Joseph stored up grain in great abundance, like the sand of the sea, until he ceased to measure it, for it could not be measured. Before the year of famine came, 2 sons were born to Joseph. Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, priest of On, bore them to him. Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh. "For," he said, "God has made me forget all my hardship and all my father's house." The name of the second he called Ephraim, "For God has made me fruitful in the land of my affliction." Oh, isn't that sweet? God gave Joseph back what everybody took away. The 7 years of plenty that occurred in the land of Egypt came to an end, and the 7 years of famine began to come. As Joseph had said, there was famine in all lands, but in all the land of Egypt there was bread. When all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. Pharaoh said to all the Egyptians, "Go to Joseph. What he says to you, do." So when the famine had spread all over the land, Joseph opened up all the storehouses and sold to the Egyptians. for the famine was severe in the land of Egypt. Moreover, all the earth came to Egypt to Joseph to buy grain, because the famine was severe over all the earth. Ooh. Now, I do know what happens next, because Joseph's story is pretty darn amazing. Now we're starting to see Joseph get his comeuppance for all that torture and pain and backstabbing and, everything people were doing to him to purposely hurt him. His brother sold him into slavery. Then he got sold, to be one of the Pharaoh's guards or whatever, I can't remember, and took care of the guard's house. Then he was accused of rape. Then he ended up in the pit, which was jail, but luckily he got to help with the jail. Then God gave him this opportunity to interpret these dreams. Now, God, knowing that Pharaoh was going to have a dream and that Joseph would be the wisdom of God, because God couldn't get through to Pharaoh. Egyptians didn't believe in the Hebrew God at all. They had all their own, and yes, I've studied all of those. So like Ra, God of the sun, that's who they went to. So the Hebrew God who had the answers was not going to be able to get through to Pharaoh. Pharaoh wouldn't hear him. He gave him the dreams. Pharaoh couldn't understand them because he didn't speak that God's language, so to speak. Now, it was great that God gave the opportunity to Joseph to interpret those dreams, and that cupbearer had to live. Now, both of them could have probably been killed, but the cupbearer had to live. So that when this dream thing happened with Pharaoh, the cupbearer, he would have been present. Now, the baker, keep in mind, wouldn't have been present. He would have been in the kitchen baking. The cupbearer always held the Pharaoh's cup, so he was usually around when these kind of meetings would take place. So he was selected to be the one chosen to live, so that when this episode happened, he could tell Pharaoh, oh, wait, I know someone who can interpret dreams. Let me tell you a story, And so then Joseph came in and just like, yeah. But then Joseph was smart. But now, Pharaoh, you will need someone wise. Joseph set himself right up into a job. That was like the best job interview of the world, if you really want to think about it. That was the perfect answer to every question at that job interview, Joseph, let me tell you. Got him out of the prison and basically made him second in command to the Pharaoh. So then Joseph could do all these right things. Now there's some even better things coming out of Joseph, but notice how he said, I've forgotten my family. All the things that people did. And I've often said, and I literally just had a conversation with somebody the other day about love, and like when you have these breakups in relationships, that there was this, this person suffering a little bit from a divorce, going through a divorce. And I said, well, from my two past experiences, I've learned you will always hold on to the love of the last one until God puts someone in your life that wipes that all away, and you're creating new memories, and you feel that love again, but it's just from somebody else, and then you forget the pain and the trauma you went through with that previous person in a way, or at least it doesn't feel as strong anymore. But you can put it behind you because you have this new avenue that you're traveling. And I'm not saying that you should just move on to the next person. Take your time to heal. There had to be healing time in there too. Joseph took healing while he had these two children and stuff. I mean, there was a great deal of time that passed through that. But I think one of the great things we can learn from Joseph too is a healing lesson of, at least I did. This is what I'm learning from it. I'm just trying to share what I'm learning as I go through this. Is that he was able to let go of a lot of the anguish and the anger, the resentment, those things, because now he was being uplifted and he had some great things to hold on to. So part of him realized it's all that bad brought me to this great thing. So I will let that go and I will move forward. And I think in life, sometimes we need to look for those great things, but not look too hard. God has them there. He'll put them in our path like he did for Joseph. But when the situation comes, just like his job interview, be wise. Be wise about it. Don't judge too quickly. Be smart and be wise. And God will give you the right answers. That's what I'm learning. I don't know. Tell me what you've learned. Share your Bible experiences with me as well. So this can feel more like a family environment, I guess. It makes me feel not so alone. Thanks. Love you. Till next time.